In the very first hand of the session, we look down at ace of hearts, deuce of hearts, and the button. And we have a $30 open under the gun as we play 5-10. In the button here with position, I like to go ahead and put in the 3-bet to 125. I like to play in position, and I definitely like to have the range advantage here. So if I can go ahead and implement a 3-bet or fold strategy, that's usually what I'm doing, unless I'm over adapting to a certain amount of limpers in the game. He makes the call, and we go two ways to a flop that comes the jack of hearts, the queen of spades, and the ace of spades. We flop top pair, and when it goes ahead and checks over to us, we decide to go size down to a third size pot. We're doing this with both our values and our bluffs, and it's really just a pot builder. When he goes ahead and just puts in the cold call, we know he can't be that strong. He must have a hand like pocket tens, a hand that has a straight draw, potentially a flush draw on this texture board. So we both go ahead and see a turn. The turn comes 7 of clubs. And when it checks over to me again here, I decide to size up a little bit bigger. We go $275 into $415, about a 2/3 size pot. We get a snap fold. Going later tells us he had pocket tens. In this very next hand, we look at 9-8 offsuit in the low jack, and when it folds over to us, we decide to open the pot to $30 here. It's a good strategy. I don't like to be first in to win, and so I decide to open up to 30 and I get a call from the hijack, the cutoff, and the big blind decide to call. We go three ways to a flop of 7 of diamonds, jack of clubs, and the 6 of hearts. With a straight draw here, we decide to make it $60. I'm not sure really what I was doing here. I prefer check raise or check call strategy, but we do get a call from the hijack and the button. We managed to get the big blind to fold. We go ahead and we see a turn. The turn is the 9 of hearts, and when we have showdown value here, we decide to just check. We get a check from the hijack player and also a check over from the button. When the action goes check, 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 I don't think anyone has anything. We river a third 9. This one we decided to go for thin value. We bet half size pot, $125, and we just simply go ahead and take it down here. In this next hand, my good friend James is all in. James is a phenomenal poker player, and you guys are about to experience and witness that here. When you look at what hand he is shoving
James,
with,
they respect you today.
I tell him they're respecting him today, and he asks if we're recording. I say yeah, and he shows the king 10 offsuit to Brian, who then later gets an all-in against him. 10s versus queen jack of diamonds on a diamond board. They decide to run it twice, and what do you know? Brian happens to spike the queen on the top and 2 diamonds on the bottom to send James home. Sorry, James. Shouldn't show the king 10 off. In this next hand, we look down at king jack offsuit, king of clubs, the jack of diamonds. I'm in the low jack, and I decide to make it $35 here. We get a call over from the big blind and the under the gun player, who are both recreational players here. So we decide to play a pot in position with a potentially strong hand. And what do you know? And the board comes jack high with 2 diamonds. And to my surprise, we get a $55 bet from the under the gun player, a donk bet here. So we decide simply to just make the call, reevaluate our hand, keep his flush draws and straight draws in here. And we continue to go ahead and we see a turn. The turn is now the 7 of clubs. And after he makes it $80, nothing more to do than just go ahead and put the standard call here. I want to continue to keep his flush draws in, and I want to continue to keep him bluffing here. And maybe he has a hand like king 10 we can get value from. The river's a deuce, and now he decides to check it over to me. We elect to go small here. We bet $120 into this spot, and he just snap folds. Kind of a weird position to be in, but maybe we were right with the missed diamonds. Potentially missed straight, then maybe hit a pair of deuces on the river, but just can't call us. In this very next hand, we look down at the exact same hand, the king of clubs and the jack of diamonds. When the under the gun player goes ahead and whips, we decide to size up here to go 4x sizing of $40 to account for the limper. So we open under the gun to $40. It folds all the way around to the small blind. Small blind does not seem to believe the story we are telling, so he puts in the call and decides to look us up. We go two ways to a flop of 4, 5, 7 of diamonds. This is a very draw-heavy board here, and with $95 in the pot, we just want to continue to tell the story that we have a big hand. I like checking my range here, but we go small. We go $30 just to see what he does. I tend to do this, again, as I mentioned earlier, with both bluffs and value. And to my surprise, he puts in the cold call. So we're slowly capping his range a little bit higher here. With the jack of diamonds in our hand, it can be a little less likely that he has a diamond draw. But he's still going and giving us action. When the turn card comes to queen, this is a card that's going to hit Mike and me a little bit harder as a pre-flop aggressor than him in his big blind range. And so I go ahead and decide to take a stab here into a pot of $155. I throw in a small bet of $150. In relevance to the pot, it's practically a pot-sized bet, but in relevance to how big this game is playing, that's pretty small. Still not a believer, he makes the call, and the river is the ace of hearts. With the obvious diamond draw bricking here, and a hand like 6-7 missing, and only having middle pair, I think it's time to attack hands like that, weaker queens, where I can really rep this range. Potentially an ace high, an ace king that was just barreling every single time. So when the pot is $455 here, and it's on me, I ask myself, how much should I put in to get in the fold? We elect for a half pot size bet of $250, and he folds his hand. We go ahead and we take down this pot with 10-9, potentially the best hand. In this very next hand, we look down at the king of hearts, the 10 of diamonds. When it folds over to me in the cutoff, I elect to open for $30 here. And to our surprise, the big blind button, the player we just played the last hand with, decides to look us up. He puts in the call for $30, and we go two ways to a flop. The flop comes jack of hearts, 10 of hearts, with 4 of spades. We have backdoor straight draws, backdoor flush draws, and middle pair here with a pretty good kicker. We decide to bet for half pot size here for $30. It goes over to our big blind friend who checked to us and decides to make the call. Still not a believer. Maybe he wants to see what we have up to the last hand. And so we go over to a turn that comes the 6 of clubs. When my opponent checks to me one more time and there's $125 in the pot, I'm going to continue to try to extract value here with my 10s. I'm targeting hands like 9s, 8s, 9-10, 10-8. Hands that could have potentially had a backdoor straight draw. Even 7-8. Hands that are now double guttered. So I put 60 to half pot size bet. And big blind tanks for a little bit here. He's not quick to make his action. Kind of allows me to cap him on having a potential draw here. And when he makes the call, we go ahead and we see a river. With about $245 in the pot, the river comes to 7 of spades. No point of bluffing anymore here, just check. Turning our hand into showdown value.
Really
and what do you know? To our surprise, we were good. 7 tends to be a scare card with the backdoor spade draw getting there, and potentially the straight draw that we saw there. In this hand, we look down at the American Airlines, the bullets, pocket aces, and the button, and we get a $35 open from the individual in middle position here. When it folds over to us, we are not only going to make the 3-bet, but we're going to go big. When our opponent goes 35, I can't see him having a hand that he's going to fold. We decide to go for a standard 4x sizing of 125. And to our surprise, he snap folds. What a waste of aces. After chipping up and down, we decided to do a $1,000 add-on. I like playing deep. I like having table stacks covered, just in case we get in a big hand. This hand, we look down at the beautiful ace of diamonds, queen of diamonds. Here in early position, we decide to open up the pot standard for $30. Essentially, it folds all the way around, and we take down the blinds. Not a bad way to win. This hand gets interesting. We look down at queen 5 of clubs and the big blind. After it gets over to the small blind, he elects to min click for only $10 more. I decide to call the player who we've been battling all night calls, and we go ahead.
Usted no juega eso, entonces va para mí. It goes to me. He didn't play the last bump out.
Oh, yeah.
We see a beautiful flop. We flop top with $60 in the pot. We go ahead and we check.
We had an
over to the
open
player in
discussion.
position. The player we've been battling with all night, and he elects to put in a bet here. He actually goes for a sizing of $30, which is pretty standard, half pot. We go ahead and we check raise here 4x with top pair and the flush draw. I want to realize my equity and see where we're at. Potentially get a re-raise from our opponent, and if not, start piling the chips here. There's a lot of turns cards that are scary cards that really slow our action, and so I want to get the money in now. I bet $120 here into a pot of 90 essentially. And what do you know? Our opponent decides to make a call. We go two ways, heads up to turn. The turn comes the king of hearts. The obvious straight draw that was open-ended gets there, and like ace jack gets there. I don't really put my opponent on ace jack. I don't see him just flatting that hand pre-flop, as I witnessed him 3-bet ace 10 offsuit earlier in the position. He knows how to play position, and he knows how to play his hand. So we throw a bet of 250 here. It's a pretty chunky bet into a pot size of 300. But we really want to get calls from big hands. With their equity here and with the clubs, obviously with the second pair, I'm going to continue to barrel off here. The truth is that I can rep a jack, I can rep my range, I can have a lot of sets here in this position. And when the turn comes, the deuce of clubs, what do you know it, a magic turn, we go ahead and we make the queen high flush draw. With $800 in the pot, I ask myself, what do I need to bet here to get called? I don't want to lose value. So I go for thin value of 275 into a pot of 800. Basically a fourth pot size bet, a little closer to a third. And to our surprise, our opponent is tanking. But he wants to look us up. He tanks, he spends his time in the tank before essentially making the call, and we show him the bad news. We rivered the flush. My opponent must have had a straight. A hand like 2-pair, king 10 might have improved on the turn. In this hand, this is a very interesting hand.
I didn't see
We look down
anything,
at
but I don't
pocket
know.
deuces after
You guys
moving
see
to a
cards or
table
no?
change, and we
No?
decide to open up to $30. To my left is a professional player, a very aggressive player who's capable of 3-betting loose, and he goes ahead and puts the cold 3-bet into
Alright, buddy,
135.
I'll give you some action.
I go ahead and tell him to
got
give him some
aces or
action.
queens?
And with stacks this deep, I don't mind calling the
Aces
pocket
are
deuces
good,
and set
queens
money
are
here.
not.
You usually get a big pot if we do manage to hit. And what do you know? We flop bottom set on a 9-10 deuce club heavy board, and we check over to our opponent here. With $285 in the pot, he bets for half
ace
pot, and
king
we
now?
decide to just make the call. There's now $535 in the pot, and the ace of spades rolls on the turn, a card that heavily favors our opponent. A check here, and our opponent throws out a small bet of $125. This is where we decide to start putting in the money. We check raise to $450 here with a card that's definitely favoring our opponent range. We're really under rep after checking back the flop, and we want to get all the money in that we can now. To my surprise, my opponent calls, and the river is a bad card. It is the jack of clubs, completing the flush draw, the straight draw. And we can't be scared. We go for thin value here of 225, and we get snapped. Oh my God, my opponent says as he turns over ace 10.
I didn't like
top
that
pair,
club.
top
That club
kicker,
saved you some money.
turn top 2. And to my surprise, we could have got a lot more value there. But nonetheless, happy how we played. We then log over to Left Pocket app, our bankroll management app that we love to utilize to track our sessions, our wins, our per hours, and definitely meditate in the middle of the session. This is habitual for me, as it's a great way for me to know if I'm winning or losing throughout every session, and to be able to track those sessions. Take my chips up to the rack to Kayla and cash out for a profit of $685, a total of $201 per hour, which is a phenomenal win for us here. As always, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, like and comment, and thank you all for watching. More of these vlogs will be coming soon. I appreciate all you guys do.
Awesome.
Have
Thank
a
you,
great
Kayla.
day.
Appreciate you. Thank you. It's for you.